The Ashcroft Foundation's annual Winter Gala was, without question, the most important event Olivia Hart had ever organized in her 3 years working as an independent event planner. Crystal chandeliers glittered above the grand ballroom, hundreds of the city's wealthiest and most influential guests moved through the space in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos, and every single detail, from the floral centerpieces to the string quartet's carefully chosen repertoire, reflected months of Olivia's exhausting, meticulous planning. She moved through the crowd with practiced efficiency, checking timing with catering staff, confirming the evening's schedule with the Foundation's board members, and generally ensuring the entire elaborate evening unfolded without a single visible flaw. Success tonight meant considerably more than simple professional pride. Her small event planning company had struggled financially over the past year, and a successful, well-publicized gala like this one could genuinely transform her business's future prospects. Olivia had almost allowed herself a rare moment of relief, watching the evening's program proceed smoothly toward its planned conclusion, when Julian Castellano approached her near the edge of the dance floor. She recognized him immediately, the charming, wealthy heir to a prominent business family whose reputation carried certain whispered undertones she'd heard mentioned cautiously among the city's social circles. He was undeniably handsome, dressed in an impeccably tailored tuxedo, though something about his confident, entitled smile had made Olivia instinctively cautious from their first brief introduction earlier that evening. "You've done remarkable work tonight," Julian said, his words slightly slurred from what was clearly considerable alcohol consumption throughout the evening. "Perhaps you'd care to dance and celebrate your success properly." "That's very kind," Olivia said carefully, maintaining professional composure despite her instinctive discomfort with his obviously inebriated state and overly familiar tone. "Though I'm afraid I need to continue monitoring tonight's proceedings." "Come now," Julian pressed, stepping closer than professional distance typically allowed, his hand reaching toward her arm with proprietary confidence. "Surely you can spare a few minutes for someone who's genuinely interested in getting to know you better." "I really can't," Olivia said firmly, attempting to step back from his increasingly uncomfortable proximity, though his grip on her arm tightened slightly, preventing her easy retreat. "Don't be difficult," Julian said, his charming facade slipping to reveal genuine irritation beneath his intoxicated confidence. "I'm not accustomed to women refusing my attention." Olivia felt genuine alarm building as several nearby guests began noticing the increasingly tense confrontation, though no one seemed prepared to directly intervene given Julian's obvious social standing and wealth. Her mind raced through possible responses, uncertain how to properly extract herself from this uncomfortable situation without creating an unprofessional scene that might damage her carefully cultivated reputation. Before she could formulate an appropriate response, a deep, calm voice cut cleanly through the tense moment. "There you are." Olivia turned, along with Julian and several nearby guests, to find a tall, imposing man approaching with unhurried, confident steps. She had noticed him earlier that evening, impossible not to notice given the particular quality of respectful distance other guests maintained around him, though she had no idea who he actually was beyond a vague sense that his presence commanded unusual attention throughout the elegant ballroom. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, his dark eyes carrying sharp, assessing intelligence as he approached. His expression calm despite the obvious tension of the moment he was clearly stepping directly into. Without waiting for introduction or explanation, he extended his hand toward Olivia with practiced, confident grace. "Our dance," he said simply, his tone carrying quiet, unmistakable authority. Olivia, genuinely confused but recognizing an obvious opportunity to escape Julian's uncomfortable attention, took the stranger's offered hand without hesitation. He pulled her gently but firmly into his arms, guiding her smoothly onto the dance floor away from Julian's stunned, increasingly furious expression. As they began moving together to the string quartet's gentle waltz, Olivia became acutely aware that the entire ballroom had fallen into unusual, complete silence around them, hundreds of guests watching with obvious fascination and barely concealed shock. "I apologize for the unexpected intervention," the stranger said quietly as they danced, his voice carrying genuine warmth despite its controlled, measured quality. "You appeared to require rescue rather more urgently than social protocol typically allows for proper introduction first." "Thank you," Olivia said, genuine gratitude evident in her voice despite her continued confusion about exactly who this confident, commanding stranger actually was. "Though I should mention, you've apparently caused quite a stir doing so." "I'm aware," the stranger said, something almost amused flickering behind his otherwise controlled expression. "My name is Damien Volkov." Olivia felt a flicker of recognition at the name, though she couldn't immediately place exactly why it carried such obvious significance throughout the watching crowd. "Olivia Hart," she offered in return. "I organized tonight's event." "I know," Damien said simply, something unreadable evident behind his controlled dark eyes. "You know?" Olivia asked, genuine surprise evident in her tone. "I make it my business to know considerable detail about events I choose to attend," Damien said carefully, deliberately vague about exactly why her identity had apparently already captured his attention before tonight's unexpected rescue. As their dance continued, whispers rippled steadily through the watching crowd, guests exchanging confused, fascinated glances at this unprecedented public display from a man apparently known throughout the city's social circles for maintaining absolute, careful privacy regarding his personal life. Olivia had no idea, as she moved through the elegant waltz within this mysterious stranger's confident embrace, that she had just become the center of considerable dangerous attention, both from the humiliated Julian Castellano watching furiously from the ballroom's edge, and from the powerful, complicated world Damien Volkov had just publicly, unexpectedly connected her to in front of the city's entire watching elite as the waltz concluded and the string quartet transitioned into their next piece. Damien gently released Olivia from their dance, though he remained close beside her rather than immediately disappearing back into the watching crowd. Whispers continued rippling through the ballroom, guests exchanging fascinated, confused glances at this unprecedented public display. "I should probably explain myself properly," Damien said quietly, guiding Olivia toward a quieter corner of the ballroom away from the crowd's continued attention. "Given the considerable spectacle I've apparently just created." "That would be genuinely appreciated," Olivia said, still processing the surreal turn her evening had taken. "I'm still uncertain exactly who you are, beyond apparently someone whose attention carries significant weight throughout this entire room." Damien's expression carried something between careful calculation and genuine reluctance as he considered how much to reveal. "I run a considerable business organization throughout this city," he said carefully. "One that operates, let's say, somewhat outside conventional legal boundaries." Olivia felt genuine alarm building at this careful admission, understanding its likely implications despite his deliberately vague phrasing. "You're involved in organized crime," she said directly, preferring honest clarity over careful euphemism. "Essentially, yes," Damien confirmed, watching her reaction carefully. "And Julian Castellano?" Olivia asked, genuine curiosity overriding her initial alarm. Why did rescuing me from his unwanted attention seem to cause such significant reaction throughout the entire room? Damien's expression hardened slightly at the mention of Julian's name. "The Castellano family operates a rival organization," he explained carefully. "Our families have maintained careful, tense neutrality for years, avoiding direct confrontation despite considerable underlying rivalry. My intervention tonight, publicly claiming your protection against Julian specifically, likely represents a significant escalation neither family has previously risked." Genuine understanding, mixed with growing concern, settled into Olivia's expression. "So my simple professional evening has somehow become entangled in dangerous criminal politics?" "I'm genuinely sorry for that unintended consequence," Damien said sincerely. "Though I couldn't simply watch Julian treat you so disrespectfully without intervening, regardless of the potential complications." "Why not?" Olivia asked directly. "You didn't know me before tonight. Why risk whatever careful balance existed between your organizations simply to rescue a stranger from uncomfortable attention?" Damien was quiet for a long moment, something genuinely complicated evident behind his careful, controlled expression. "There's a personal history involved," he said finally. "One I'm not entirely prepared to discuss in detail during our first proper conversation, though I promise you deserve genuine explanation eventually." Olivia studied him carefully, genuine curiosity mixing with reasonable caution given everything he'd just revealed about his dangerous world. "That's rather mysterious," she observed. "I understand if that mystery makes you uncomfortable," Damien said seriously. "Though I want to assure you, whatever danger my intervention tonight might have created, I intend to ensure your continued safety regardless of the complications involved." Before their conversation could continue further, Marcus, one of Damien's trusted security personnel, approached quietly, leaning down to speak urgently near his employer's ear. Damien's expression sharpened noticeably at whatever information was being relayed. "What is it?" Olivia asked, noticing the sudden shift in his demeanor. "Julian has left the gala," Damien said carefully. "Apparently quite furious, according to my sources. I'd like to arrange proper security for you tonight, Miss Hart. Given the genuine possibility, he might attempt some form of retaliation given tonight's public humiliation." "That seems like a significant overreaction," Olivia said, though genuine uncertainty was evident beneath her attempted skepticism. "I'd rather overreact and ensure your safety than underestimate Julian's potential response," Damien said firmly. "The Castellano family doesn't typically handle public embarrassment gracefully." Genuine concern building despite her reasonable skepticism, Olivia found herself reluctantly agreeing to Damien's careful precautions, allowing his security team to escort her safely home following the gala's conclusion rather than her original plan of managing the evening's final logistics independently. As Olivia settled into the unfamiliar comfort of Damien's private security detail escorting her home, she found herself replaying their unexpected conversation, genuine curiosity building about exactly what personal history had motivated such a significant public intervention on her behalf. Meanwhile, across the city, Julian Castellano sat in his family's private study, genuine fury evident beneath his attempted composed exterior as he processed the evening's humiliating turn of events. "Volkov humiliated me publicly," Julian said sharply to his father, Salvatore Castellano, who listened with careful, calculating attention. In front of the entire city's elite social circle, claiming that woman as though she belonged to him specifically. "Tell me everything," Salvatore said carefully, genuine interest evident behind his controlled expression. Julian recounted the evening's events with increasing agitation, his father listening with the particular focused attention of someone already calculating strategic implications and opportunities within his son's obvious humiliation. "This event planner," Salvatore said thoughtfully once Julian finished his account. "Do we know anything about her specifically?" "Nothing significant," Julian admitted. "Simply an independent event planner, apparently talented enough to secure prestigious clients like the Ashcroft Foundation." Yet Damien Volkov, a man known throughout this city for maintaining absolute privacy regarding his personal life, chose to publicly claim her protection, Salvatore observed carefully. "That suggests considerably more significance than a simple, spontaneous gesture." "What are you suggesting?" Julian asked. "I'm suggesting," Salvatore said, genuine calculation evident in his tone, "that if Volkov has developed genuine personal attachment to this woman, however unexpected or recent, she represents exactly the kind of vulnerability our organization has been searching for regarding his previously untouchable position." Julian's expression shifted from wounded pride toward genuine interest at his father's calculating observation. "You believe we should investigate her further?" "Thoroughly," Salvatore confirmed. "If Volkov genuinely cares about this woman's safety, that connection could provide exactly the leverage necessary to finally challenge his organization's territorial dominance, something our family has struggled to achieve for years despite considerable effort." As the Castellano family began their own careful, dangerous investigation into Olivia's life and circumstances, she remained entirely unaware, back in her modest apartment, that her simple, unexpected rescue at a professional gala had potentially placed her directly at the center of a dangerous, escalating conflict between two of the city's most powerful criminal organizations. The following morning, Olivia woke to find a simple, elegant bouquet delivered to her apartment, accompanied by a handwritten note carrying Damien's careful, precise handwriting. "Thank you for your grace last night, despite the unexpected complications my intervention created. I would genuinely appreciate the opportunity to properly explain myself and ensure your continued safety over dinner this evening, if you're amenable. D.V." Olivia studied the note carefully, genuine curiosity mixing with reasonable caution about deepening her unexpected connection to Damien's dangerous world. Yet something about his genuine concern for her safety, his careful acknowledgement of the complications his rescue had created, made her increasingly curious about the complicated man who had so unexpectedly transformed her ordinary professional evening into something considerably more significant and mysterious. She picked up her phone, genuine anticipation building as she composed her careful response, uncertain exactly what she was agreeing to, but genuinely curious to discover more about the confident, mysterious man who had so dramatically claimed her protection in front of an entire silent ballroom. Olivia arrived at the quiet, upscale restaurant Damien had suggested for their dinner, genuine nervousness mixing with considerable curiosity as she was escorted to a private table overlooking the city's glittering evening skyline. Damien stood as she approached, genuine warmth evident in his careful expression despite his usual controlled demeanor. "Thank you for coming," he said sincerely, gesturing toward the seat across from him. I'll admit, I've spent considerable time today debating whether accepting this invitation represented wisdom or genuine foolishness, Olivia said honestly, settling into her chair. A reasonable concern, Damien acknowledged, genuine understanding evident in his tone. Given everything you've learned about my world in such a short period. They ordered their meals, their conversation initially careful and measured before gradually relaxing into something resembling genuine, comfortable connection. Olivia found herself increasingly curious about the complicated man across from her, someone who carried obvious danger and authority, yet demonstrated genuine thoughtfulness and consideration in his careful treatment toward her. You mentioned personal history, Olivia said finally, genuine curiosity overriding her earlier hesitation, regarding why you intervened so publicly last night. Damien's expression grew serious, genuine vulnerability evident beneath his careful composure. My younger sister, Anna, faced a similar situation years ago, he said quietly. A powerful man's unwanted attention, cornering her at a business function much like last night's gala. No one intervened properly, myself included, given I wasn't present at the time. What happened? Olivia asked gently, sensing the genuine weight behind his careful explanation. The situation escalated considerably beyond simple unwanted attention, Damien said, genuine pain evident in his controlled voice. Anna was harmed, physically and psychologically, in ways that fundamentally changed who she became afterward. I've carried considerable guilt since then, understanding I could have prevented that harm had I simply been present, had someone intervened properly when it mattered most. Genuine sympathy flooded through Olivia's chest at this painful revelation. I'm so sorry, Damien. That's an incredibly difficult thing to carry. When I witnessed Julian's behavior toward you last night, Damien continued, something within me refused to allow history to repeat itself, refused to remain passive while someone I could genuinely help faced similar danger and disrespect. Olivia studied him carefully, genuine understanding and appreciation evident in her expression. That explains considerably more about your intervention than simple spontaneous chivalry, she said softly. Thank you for sharing something so genuinely personal and painful. I felt you deserved honest explanation, Damien said sincerely, regardless of how difficult that history remains to discuss even now. Their conversation continued deepening throughout their meal, both discovering genuine comfort and connection despite the unconventional, dangerous circumstances that had brought them together. Olivia found herself sharing details about her own difficult professional journey, the financial struggles that had nearly forced her small business to close before tonight's successful, high-profile gala. Your talent is genuinely evident, Damien observed sincerely. Anyone witnessing last night's event would recognize considerable skill and dedication in every carefully planned detail. Thank you, Olivia said, genuine warmth evident in her expression at his sincere praise. Though I'll admit, financial success has remained considerably more elusive than professional pride alone typically provides. As their dinner concluded, Damien's expression grew serious once again. I need to discuss something important, he said carefully, regarding the genuine danger my public intervention might have created for your safety. Olivia's earlier warmth shifted toward genuine concern. What kind of danger, specifically? Julian's family, the Castellanos, operates a rival organization to my own, Damien explained. They've maintained careful, tense neutrality with my organization for years, though considerable underlying rivalry has always existed beneath that careful surface piece. And my involvement complicates that careful balance, Olivia said, understanding building steadily. Potentially significantly, Damien confirmed. If the Castellanos believe I've developed genuine personal attachment to you, they may view that connection as exploitable vulnerability, an opportunity to gain leverage against my organization's previously secure position. Genuine alarm building despite her attempt at composed reception of this troubling information, Olivia considered the implications carefully. What does that mean practically, for my safety specifically? I intend to provide continued protection, Damien said firmly. Discreet security around your apartment and workplace, careful monitoring of any unusual activity that might suggest genuine threat rather than simple precautionary concern. That seems like a significant complication to my ordinary, professional life, Olivia said, genuine uncertainty evident in her voice. I understand completely if this situation feels overwhelming, Damien said gently. I take full responsibility for creating this complication through my impulsive intervention last night. If you'd prefer distance from my world entirely, I would understand and respect that choice, despite my genuine concern for your continued safety. Olivia considered his careful, respectful offer thoughtfully, genuine appreciation building for his evident consideration despite the dangerous complications surrounding their unexpected connection. I don't think distance necessarily resolves the danger you've described, she said finally. If the Castellanos have already identified potential connection between us, wouldn't avoiding you entirely simply leave me vulnerable without proper protection or understanding of the actual threat? Something genuinely relieved flickered behind Damien's careful expression at her thoughtful, pragmatic response. That's a fair assessment, he acknowledged. Though I want you to understand clearly, accepting my continued protection doesn't obligate you toward any particular expectation regarding our personal connection beyond genuine safety. I appreciate that clarity, Olivia said sincerely, genuine warmth evident beneath her careful consideration of their complicated circumstances. Meanwhile, across the city, Salvatore Castellano's careful investigation into Olivia's life had progressed considerably throughout that same evening. His informants had confirmed her financial struggles, her recent professional success organizing the Ashcroft Gala, and most significantly, Damien's continued, unusual attention toward her following their unprecedented public dance. He's at dinner with her tonight, one investigator reported during a tense meeting within Castellano's headquarters. Private restaurant, clearly personal rather than simply professional circumstances. Salvatore considered this information carefully, genuine calculation evident behind his sharp, assessing expression. This confirms genuine attachment, he said finally. Volkov doesn't typically extend this kind of personal attention toward anyone outside his immediate organization. What are your instructions? His lieutenant asked carefully. Continue monitoring their connection discreetly, Salvatore instructed. I want comprehensive understanding of exactly how significant this attachment genuinely proves before we consider our next strategic move. Julian, present throughout this careful discussion, felt genuine satisfaction at his father's methodical approach toward avenging his public humiliation. How long before we act? He asked impatiently. Patience, Julian, Salvatore said firmly. Rushing this opportunity risks squandering exactly the kind of significant leverage we've searched for regarding Volkov's previously untouchable position. We'll act precisely when maximum advantage genuinely presents itself, not simply when your wounded pride demands immediate satisfaction. As the Castellano family's dangerous, calculated investigation continued intensifying, Olivia and Damien remained unaware of exactly how closely their carefully building, unexpected connection was being monitored, both increasingly invested in exploring genuine feelings developing between them despite the considerable, dangerous complications surrounding their unlikely partnership. Same time next week? Damien asked as their dinner finally concluded, genuine hope evident beneath his careful, measured tone. I'd like that, Olivia said sincerely, genuine warmth evident in her expression despite everything she'd learned about the dangerous complications now surrounding her previously ordinary life. Neither of them could have anticipated exactly how quickly the Castellano family's patient, calculated investigation would transform from careful monitoring into direct, dangerous action against their carefully building connection. The rivalry between the Volkov and Castellano families extended back nearly 2 decades, rooted in circumstances considerably more complicated than simple territorial competition. Damien's father, Victor Volkov, and Salvatore Castellano had once operated as reluctant business partners, their organizations sharing control over the city's shipping routes through a carefully negotiated agreement that had maintained relative peace for years. That fragile peace shattered when Salvatore, driven by ambitious greed, orchestrated a betrayal that resulted in Victor Volkov's death during what was supposed to be a routine business negotiation. Damien, only 22 years old at the time, had been forced to assume leadership of his father's organization far earlier than anyone had anticipated, his grief compounded by the genuine danger of maintaining control over a criminal empire while simultaneously navigating his father's murderer's continued presence within the city's power structure. Direct retaliation had seemed the obvious response, though Damien's careful advisors had counseled patience instead, understanding that open warfare between 2 powerful organizations would likely result in devastating losses on both sides, potentially destroying everything both families had built over generations. Instead, Damien had maintained careful, controlled distance from the Castellano family, building his organization's strength methodically while avoiding direct confrontation that might provide Salvatore justification for further aggressive action. This careful neutrality had persisted for nearly 8 years, an uneasy peace maintained through mutual recognition that open conflict would prove catastrophic for both organizations. Damien's public intervention at the Ashcroft Gala represented the first significant deviation from this careful neutrality in nearly a decade, a fact not lost on either family's leadership as they processed the implications of his unprecedented public gesture. "He's finally shown weakness," Julian said triumphantly during a private meeting with his father, genuine satisfaction evident in his voice as he processed his father's careful strategic assessment. After years of maintaining perfect, untouchable control, Volkov has revealed genuine vulnerability. "Perhaps," Salvatore said carefully, though genuine caution remained evident beneath his calculating tone. "Though we should proceed thoughtfully rather than allowing this opportunity to provoke reckless action." "Why continue waiting?" Julian pressed, genuine impatience evident in his voice. "You've always taught me to strike decisively when opportunity presents itself." "Genuine opportunity requires careful preparation," Salvatore said firmly. "Volkov remains considerably powerful despite this apparent vulnerability. Rushing toward confrontation without proper strategic advantage risks catastrophic consequences for our own organization." Julian's expression carried genuine frustration at his father's continued caution, though he understood, at least intellectually, the wisdom behind Salvatore's careful strategic approach. His own wounded pride, however, continued pushing him toward increasingly reckless consideration of independent action against both Damien and Olivia. Meanwhile, Damien found himself grappling with his own complicated feelings regarding the resurging tension between his organization and the Castellanos, understanding clearly that his impulsive intervention at the gala had potentially reignited a dangerous rivalry he'd spent years carefully managing. "I need to discuss something difficult," he told Marcus during a private strategic meeting within his estate's secure conference room. "My intervention regarding Olivia has apparently provided Salvatore Castellano exactly the opportunity he's been searching for to challenge our organization's territorial position. What are your instructions moving forward?" Marcus asked carefully. "Increase security throughout our territory," Damien said firmly. "I want comprehensive monitoring of any unusual Castellano activity, particularly anything suggesting they're preparing more direct action beyond simple investigation." "And regarding Ms. Hart specifically?" Marcus asked. "Her protection remains absolute priority," Damien said without hesitation. "Whatever additional security resources are necessary, I want them properly arranged immediately." As Damien's organization increased their careful vigilance regarding the resurging Castellano threat, Olivia continued her regular professional obligations, though she found herself increasingly aware of the subtle but persistent security presence Damien had arranged around her daily routine. "You've noticed the additional attention," Damien observed during their now regular weekly dinner, genuine perceptiveness evident in his careful assessment of her demeanor. "It's difficult not to notice unfamiliar vehicles parked consistently outside my apartment," Olivia said, though genuine understanding rather than resentment was evident in her tone. "I appreciate the protection, even if it represents a significant adjustment to my previously ordinary existence." "I'm genuinely sorry for the disruption," Damien said sincerely. "Though I won't apologize for prioritizing your safety, regardless of the inconvenience it creates." Their conversation gradually shifted toward more personal territory, both increasingly comfortable sharing genuine vulnerability despite the dangerous complications surrounding their growing connection. Olivia found herself genuinely curious about Damien's complicated history, the weight of leadership he'd assumed at such a young age, the careful balance he'd maintained between his organization's demands and his own personal integrity. "How do you manage the weight of it all?" she asked one evening, genuine concern evident in her question. "The responsibility, the danger, the careful calculations required simply to maintain your position?" Damien considered her question thoughtfully before responding. "Some days considerably better than others," he admitted honestly. "Though I've found, particularly these past few weeks, that having someone genuinely present to share these burdens with, even simply through honest conversation, makes considerable difference to how manageable everything feels." Genuine warmth flooded through Olivia's chest at his sincere admission. "I'm genuinely glad our unexpected connection has provided some measure of comfort," she said softly, "despite the obvious complications it's created." "The comfort considerably outweighs the complications," Damien said sincerely, something genuinely vulnerable evident in his careful expression. As their connection continued deepening steadily despite the dangerous circumstances surrounding it, Julian Castellano's patience finally reached its breaking point. Frustrated by his father's continued strategic caution, he began independently investigating potential opportunities to strike against both Damien and Olivia without his father's direct knowledge or approval. I want everything on Olivia Hart's schedule, Julian instructed his own private investigator, deliberately circumventing his father's careful oversight. Her regular routine, her professional obligations, any patterns that might present genuine opportunity. Your father has instructed patience regarding this situation, the investigator said carefully, genuine hesitation evident in his tone. My father's patience has cost us considerable opportunity already, Julian said sharply. I intend to demonstrate exactly how decisive action can accomplish what excessive caution has failed to achieve. Within days, Julian's independent investigation had identified a significant vulnerability in Olivia's careful security arrangement. A weekly client meeting she attended alone, without Damien's security detail present, given the professional nature of the appointment requiring discretion beyond what obvious security presence typically allowed. Genuine satisfaction building at this discovered opportunity, Julian began carefully planning his own independent action against Olivia, entirely unaware that his reckless disregard for his father's careful strategic patience was about to trigger exactly the kind of catastrophic, open conflict Salvatore had spent considerable effort trying to avoid. Back at Damien's estate, unaware of the imminent danger Julian's wounded pride was preparing to unleash, Damien and Olivia continued building their genuine, careful connection, both increasingly hopeful that perhaps genuine happiness remained possible despite the dangerous complications surrounding their unlikely partnership. The client meeting Julian had identified as Olivia's vulnerability took place at a small, upscale event space downtown, where she was scheduled to present proposals for an upcoming corporate function. As required by the client's request for discretion regarding sensitive business details, Olivia had agreed to attend without her usual, obvious security presence, trusting the professional discretion Damien's more subtle protective measures still provided. What she didn't know was that Julian had carefully manipulated the situation, using a fabricated business contact to arrange this particular meeting specifically, ensuring Olivia would arrive at a location and time entirely under his control rather than genuine client business requirements. As Olivia entered the quiet, seemingly empty event space, genuine unease began building despite her attempts at professional composure. Something about the location's unusual silence, the absence of any visible staff or client representatives, triggered instinctive alarm she couldn't immediately articulate. "Hello," she called out, genuine caution evident in her voice as she moved further into the space. "I'm here for the Hendricks proposal meeting." Julian emerged from a side room, his expression carrying calculated calm despite the genuine danger underlying his careful approach. "I'm afraid there's no Hendricks meeting," he said, his tone carrying unsettling confidence. "Simply an opportunity I've been searching for regarding your unexpected significance to Damien Volkov." Genuine terror flooded through Olivia's chest as she recognized the full extent of the danger she'd unknowingly walked into. "Julian," she said carefully, attempting to project calm despite her racing heart, "this isn't necessary. Whatever grievance you have with Damien, involving me won't accomplish anything productive." "On the contrary," Julian said, moving closer with deliberate, unhurried steps, "you represent exactly the leverage necessary to finally demonstrate that Damien Volkov isn't nearly as untouchable as he's convinced this city to believe." As Julian's men, previously hidden throughout the building's various rooms, emerged to surround her, Olivia's mind raced desperately for any possible escape or defense. She managed to activate the discreet emergency signal Damien had insisted she carry, a small device disguised as an ordinary keychain, before Julian's men successfully restrained her. "You won't get away with this," Olivia said firmly, genuine defiance evident despite her obvious fear. "I already have," Julian said confidently, though something slightly uncertain flickered behind his calculated composure. Meanwhile, at his estate, Damien received the emergency alert through his security system with immediate, focused alarm. "Olivia's signal has activated," Marcus reported urgently, already moving toward the command center to properly assess the situation. "Location," Damien demanded sharply, his usual controlled composure replaced by genuine, focused urgency. "The Hendricks event space downtown," Marcus confirmed, cross-referencing Olivia's scheduled appointments. "Though our intelligence suggests the actual Hendricks representatives have no scheduled meeting there today." Genuine understanding flooded through Damien's expression, recognizing immediately the fabricated trap Olivia had unknowingly walked into. "Castellano," he said grimly, "mobilize everyone immediately. We're heading there now." As Damien's security forces raced toward the downtown location, genuine fear for Olivia's safety driving his usually controlled decision-making toward increasingly urgent action, Julian's confrontation with Olivia continued unfolding within the isolated event space. What exactly do you intend to accomplish here? Olivia demanded, genuine courage evident beneath her obvious fear as Julian's men maintained their restraining grip on her arms. Simply demonstrating leverage, Julian said calmly. Once Volkov understands genuine consequences exist for humiliating me publicly, he'll reconsider his organization's careful territorial boundaries considerably more favorably toward my family's interests. You're using me as a bargaining chip, Olivia said, genuine anger evident beneath her fear. That's remarkably cowardly, using an innocent person to fight battles you're apparently incapable of winning directly. Julian's expression darkened at her pointed accusation. Careful, he said sharply. Your current position doesn't particularly favor unnecessary provocation. Before the tense confrontation could escalate further, the sound of multiple vehicles arriving outside echoed through the building's thin walls. Julian's expression shifted toward genuine alarm as he recognized the timing suggested Damien's forces had arrived considerably faster than his careful planning had anticipated. They're here already, one of Julian's men reported urgently. Secure the exits, Julian commanded, though genuine uncertainty was evident beneath his attempted authority. The confrontation that followed erupted quickly as Damien's superior numbers and considerably more disciplined security forces overwhelmed Julian's smaller, less prepared group. Damien himself moved through the building with focused, controlled urgency, genuine relief flooding through his chest as he finally located Olivia, still restrained but visibly unharmed within the building's central room. Damien, Olivia said, genuine relief evident in her voice at his arrival. I'm here, Damien confirmed, quickly moving to properly secure her release from Julian's remaining men, who surrendered rapidly given the obvious shift in tactical advantage now clearly favoring Damien's superior forces. Julian, recognizing the complete collapse of his independent plan, attempted a desperate retreat toward a side exit, though Damien's security personnel intercepted him before he could successfully escape the building. It's over, Julian, Damien said firmly, his expression carrying genuine, controlled fury despite his obvious relief at Olivia's safety. This reckless action has finally provided justification for consequences your father's careful diplomacy has managed to avoid for considerable years. My father didn't authorize this, Julian admitted, genuine fear evident beneath his attempted defiance. This was my own independent decision. That distinction won't particularly matter to the broader implications your actions have created, Damien said coldly. Regardless of your father's knowledge or authorization, you've directly threatened someone under my explicit protection. That demands genuine response. As Damien's security team properly secured Julian for what would become considerably serious consequences given his reckless, unauthorized action, Damien turned his full attention toward Olivia, genuine concern and relief evident in his careful expression. Are you hurt? He asked urgently, checking her carefully for any visible injury. I'm okay, Olivia said, though her voice carried lingering tremors from the frightening ordeal. Frightened, but genuinely unharmed. Damien pulled her gently into his arms, genuine relief flooding through his controlled composure as he held her close. I'm so sorry, he said quietly. This danger exists entirely because of my impulsive decision to publicly claim your protection that first evening. Don't apologize, Olivia said firmly, despite her obvious exhaustion from the frightening confrontation. You protected me from genuine harm that night, and again today. I don't regret the connection we've built together, regardless of the complications it's created. Something genuinely moved past across Damien's expression at her steadfast, courageous response despite everything she'd just endured. You're remarkable, he said sincerely, genuine admiration evident in his voice. As Damien's security team properly secured the scene and arranged for Julian's transport to face appropriate consequences within his own organization's careful judicial processes, Damien remained close beside Olivia, genuine determination evident in his expression regarding exactly how this dangerous conflict with the Castellano family would ultimately need to be resolved, permanently and decisively, to ensure Olivia's continued safety moving forward. 3 days after Julian's failed kidnapping attempt, Salvatore Castellano requested an urgent, private meeting with Damien, genuine concern about his organization's future evident despite his usual careful composure. They met at neutral ground, a quiet office space typically reserved for exactly this kind of delicate negotiation between rival criminal organizations. I want to be absolutely clear, Salvatore began, genuine sincerity evident in his careful tone. Julian's actions were entirely unauthorized. I had counseled patience specifically to avoid exactly this kind of reckless, dangerous confrontation. That distinction doesn't erase the genuine danger he created, Damien said firmly, though he listened carefully to Salvatore's explanation rather than immediately dismissing it. I understand completely, Salvatore said. Which is why I'm prepared to offer significant concessions to properly resolve this situation, ensuring both Ms. Hart's continued safety and preventing further escalation between our organizations. Over the following hour, Salvatore and Damien negotiated careful terms that would resolve the immediate crisis while establishing clearer boundaries moving forward. Julian would face serious consequences within his own family's organization, effectively removing him from any position of genuine authority or influence for the foreseeable future. Additionally, Salvatore agreed to formal territorial boundaries that would prevent future incidents of this nature, a considerably more concrete arrangement than the careful, informal neutrality that had previously existed between their organizations. I genuinely regret my son's reckless actions, Salvatore said as their negotiation concluded. Both for the danger it created toward Ms. Hart, and for the years of careful diplomacy it nearly destroyed between our families. I appreciate your willingness to address this properly, Damien said, genuine respect evident in his tone despite their organization's complicated history. Perhaps this resolution, difficult as its circumstances were, provides genuine opportunity for more stable peace moving forward. As the formal agreement between the Volkov and Castellano organizations was properly established, ensuring considerably more security for both Damien's territory and Olivia's continued safety, Damien returned to his estate with genuine relief evident in his expression for the first time since the frightening confrontation 3 days earlier. He found Olivia in the estate's quiet garden, having spent the recovery period following her ordeal within the security of Damien's protected property rather than returning immediately to her own apartment. It's resolved, Damien said, settling beside her on the garden bench. Julian faces serious consequences within his own organization, and Salvatore has agreed to formal boundaries that should prevent similar danger moving forward. Genuine relief flooded through Olivia's expression at this welcome news. That's genuinely wonderful, she said sincerely. Though I'll admit, these past few days have given me considerable time to think about everything that's happened since that first evening at the gala. What conclusions have you reached? Damien asked carefully, genuine curiosity evident in his tone. Olivia considered her response thoughtfully before answering. I've realized that despite the genuine danger and complications your world has introduced into my previously ordinary existence, I don't regret the connection we've built together, she said sincerely. You've shown me genuine care, consideration, and protection throughout everything that's happened, even when circumstances grew considerably more dangerous than either of us anticipated. Something genuinely hopeful flickered behind Damien's careful expression. I've been considering something similar, he admitted. That evening at the gala, my intervention was impulsive, driven partly by genuine concern for your immediate safety, partly by memories of my sister's difficult experience. But these past weeks, getting to genuinely know you, building this connection despite everything working against it, I've realized my feelings extend considerably beyond simple protective instinct. What are you saying, Damien? Olivia asked softly, genuine warmth evident in her expression. I'm saying, Damien continued, genuine vulnerability evident beneath his usually controlled demeanor, that I've fallen in love with you, Olivia. Not simply through obligation or circumstance, but genuine, deliberate choice built through weeks of authentic connection and shared vulnerability. Genuine emotion flooded through Olivia's chest at his sincere, heartfelt admission. I've developed the same feelings, she said softly. Despite everything dangerous and complicated about your world, about how we met, I've genuinely fallen in love with you as well, Damien. Something profoundly relieved and joyful passed across Damien's expression at her honest reciprocation. He reached for her hand gently, genuine warmth evident in his careful touch. What does this mean for us moving forward? He asked, genuine hope evident in his voice. I think, Olivia said thoughtfully, it means we build something genuine together, carefully navigating the complications your world presents, but choosing each other deliberately despite those difficulties. I'd like that very much, Damien said sincerely, leaning forward to press a gentle, meaningful kiss against her lips. 6 months later, the Ashcroft Foundation hosted their annual spring gala, considerably different circumstances surrounding Olivia's attendance this time as Damien's acknowledged, genuine partner rather than simply the event's professional organizer. She still managed considerable aspects of the evening's planning, her business having flourished significantly following the previous Winter Gala success and subsequent high-profile connections that success had generated. As the evening's dancing began, Damien crossed the elegant ballroom with the same confident, unhurried steps that had first caught the attention of the entire watching crowd 6 months earlier. This time, however, no shocked silence fell across the room as he pulled Olivia into his arms. Instead, genuine warmth and understanding rippled through the gathered guests, many of whom had followed the remarkable, publicly acknowledged relationship that had developed since that unprecedented first dance. "It feels considerably different this time," Olivia observed softly as they moved together through the familiar waltz. "Considerably better," Damien agreed, genuine happiness evident in his expression, a warmth that had become increasingly natural and consistent throughout their months together. As their dance continued, Damien's earlier controlled, guarded demeanor had transformed considerably, genuine joy and openness now regularly evident in ways his organization's members had rarely witnessed before Olivia's unexpected arrival into his carefully guarded existence. "I never anticipated," Damien said quietly as they danced, "that a simple, impulsive gesture of protection would eventually lead toward genuine, lasting happiness I'd stopped believing myself capable of experiencing." "Neither did I," Olivia admitted, genuine warmth evident in her expression. "Though I'm genuinely grateful that Ballroom fell silent that particular evening, allowing us both the unexpected opportunity to discover exactly what we needed, even before either of us fully understood we were searching for it." As their dance continued beneath the same glittering chandeliers where their unlikely story had first begun, both Damien and Olivia understood clearly that sometimes the most significant, meaningful connections arrived through the most unexpected, dramatic circumstances, transforming not just individual lives, but the very foundations of power and protection that had once seemed entirely separate from genuine, lasting love. The bold gesture that had once caused an entire ballroom to fall silent had ultimately revealed not simply protection, but the beginning of something considerably deeper, a connection built through genuine courage, honest vulnerability, and the willingness to claim happiness despite every dangerous complication working against it.